which is where in the life cycle of the new technology is it easiest to create and dominate?
Sure. So can I have you hold that question, come back to it? I want to point to one of the things while we are talking about things like lookup. One of the things I find founders seldom realize is there's a huge difference. By the time you're 10 people in a company, you're pretty set on whether you're going to be a $50 million company or a $1 billion company. And I like to say there's a huge difference between a 0 million revenue company and a 0 billion revenue company. And most of it is in attitude. So from day one, even though John Herring was in his early 20s, he was probably 23 when we backed him, and Hussein was thinking different. As we talked to them about what it would take to get to base camp and then to scale towards Mount Everest, they were thinking about how to build a $1 billion company even though they had zero revenue. It's a critical difference that people almost never realize, and it's probably the one thing I find entrepreneurs don't know, and don't even know they don't know the difference. Because there's truly, you could have $1 million a year in revenue, and you could either be on path to being a $20 million company or a $1 billion company and not know the difference. It's the kind of people you hire, the way you think about things, the trade-offs you make in what to do and what not to do. All those things are really important.
Do you think the difference between those two is risk appetite, so that maybe it's less risk to go for the $50 million opportunity than for the $1 billion opportunity? That's why you go for it?
I don't think so. Some people will simplify it, but you can solve the risk problem by doing base camp before you start ascent on Mount Everest. Right? In some sense, headsets was a base camp for Jawbone. But the people you hire, the technologies you focus on, if you don't hire, so one of my other favorite sayings is a company becomes the people it hires. And it's so obvious in retrospect. If you haven't hired the gene pool for a $1 billion company, you're not going to get there. And so then you start executing on a plan, and you hire the people to execute just on your first product, as opposed to the people who will execute on the first product, but know how to think about second, third, fourth in the larger vision. So there is, I don't think risk is the issue, attitude is the issue.
That's crazy, right?
So let me go back to your question. Yeah.
But what does it take to create a new category and dominate that new category? Where in the cycle of the new technology is it easiest to do so?
Look, there's so many ways to do it, but let me give you a couple of fairly concrete examples. Most things that create very large companies are things people already do. So in terms of the human function, they're not new categories. But how they're done in category creating companies is different. Now, take Airbnb. We're not investors in Airbnb, I wish I was. The idea of renting out rooms is an old idea. How they did it created a new category, what some people call the sharing economy, which I love. I think it's a great new category.
Unlocking new economic activity.
Yeah. So they did that differently. What Instagram did was take an old function, photography, and did it differently. It's shocking to me, for example, that nobody's done that in video. Clearly a large opportunity. The function that you want to take videos of various events or your kid's birthday party hasn't changed and will not change. But I'd be surprised if 5 years from now we're sitting here and somebody didn't change the definition of how you meet your need for that video of your kids.
It's not for lack of trying.
Yeah, no, it's not for lack of trying. But the idea is you take an old function, a large function. Photography was a large function. Renting rooms is a large function. Hotels is a large function. And you do it differently where it feels different and is received differently. That's how you create new categories.
So we only have a few more minutes, and I want to go back to a post that you wrote for me when I was at TechCrunch on the unhyped, a dozen unhyped areas. And a lot of them, have overlap with mobile. I'll just read a few of them. and then ask you, you know, would you update this? Do you still think these are unhyped? Would you add to them? So some of them were Health 2.0, Internet of Things, TV 2.0, the role of emotion in product design, information filters, and mobile marketplaces.
So I don't know if I can address all of them, but trying to be
one,
quick.
Yeah, one or two.
Let me say in health, I'm starting to see an explosion of activity. Lots of new stuff happening. My EKG machine, we have a breath sensor we're doing which can detect hundreds of gases in your breath, and every piece of chemistry going on in your body likely has a volatile component that ends up in your breath. There's more than 300 gases that are detectable in your breath. If you have diabetes, you'll have ketosis going on that shows up in ketones in your breath. If you have asthma, you'll see nitrous oxide in your breath. If you have lung cancer, it shows up in your breath. If you have breast cancer, it shows up in your breath. So lots of stuff. There's probably a dozen examples if we had time I could go into. So health is clearly a lot of activity, a lot of change, mostly driven by consumers. And I like to say the fundamental change in healthcare is going to transfer power from health systems and doctors to consumers. We love technologies that make the consumer the CEO of their own health.
Right.
Whether it's diagnostic tools like this or tools like IBM Watson, which actually do the diagnosis for you. So health is great. You pick a category like TV 2.0, I'm disappointed that no new experience around TV watching has emerged.
Right.
I'm a little surprised. I would have thought something would have popped up. So I was wrong there, but I actually still believe somebody will reinvent the watching experience around iPads interacting with large screen TVs.
I think so too. Up till now, it's just been a change in distribution, not a change in experience.
Internet of Things, you're starting to see a few things, but not an explosion of activity. Emotion, I think Pinterest is all about emotion.
Sure.
We have a great company called Wattpad, which probably has 12, 15 million annual monthly visitors. Amazing company. It's an emotional company.
Right.
So there's quite a few examples. Instagram, of course, was emotional too.
And by emotional, what do you mean? I mean, part of that is the design, part of that is the experience. What do you mean by emotional?
You know, products, with the principal product is feeding the emotional needs of people. Emotional needs, when you watch a TV drama or watch The Voice on TV, you're trying to see who wins, who loses. It's not a utility in the sense of you make more money or you buy more, get great food to eat. It's appealing to your emotional needs in one way or another. Sports is an emotional product, right? I think not enough attention has been paid to mobile-based products that appeal to emotion of human beings. I think it's a major new category. I keep thinking new and newer companies will emerge there.
Well, I could sit here and listen to you all day. Unfortunately, we're out of time, and I know that you need to go to another speaking engagement. You're very much in demand. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk to us and share your experience and your ideas.